You might remember me talking about plans changing. That continued to happen. So we had an inspection here. The inspector said there needs to be a portal frame detail here, and this beam needs to be packed out. Now my plans didn't say that, but we had an outdated set of plans. We were working off of an old set that didn't have that detail, and the inspector was looking at a new set that did have that detail. So we had to pull some sheets off to redo that, and then we're getting this eyebrow roof on as well. But we're also gonna do this set of stairs in here, so let's talk about that. So here's my location where these are gonna go. So basically what I need to do is I need to get my height from there down to the concrete, and that is gonna give me my rough height. But let's see if I can draw this somewhere. Because we've got our landing up here and the concrete down here, this slope, so my height to here will be good approximately to get me my run. So I need to check that height, figure that, and then figure out my run, and then recheck the height from here using a laser. So spoiler alert, I already did that. This is where my run ends up coming out to. See that crow's foot? So I lasered over, got that height, and yeah, it was about a 3/8 different based on my rough check. So my overall height was 136 inches and 3/8. So I take that height, divide it by 7, that'll give you an approximate number, that'll give you about 19. So then I divide by 19, that gives me a 7-inch run. I can go higher than that, so I tried by 18. That gets me 7 9/16, and that's what we went with. So that is what I've got here. These steps are gonna have a 7 9/16 run, or sorry, a 7 9/16 rise, and a 10-inch run. So I can calculate that diagonal. Basically, after punching those two things in on the calculator, 7 9/16 is my run. Oh, sorry, no, clear that. I stored that, so I can recall one. It's my rise, 10-inch run. This diagonal will give me that number. I'll mark my first tread out, and then I'll basically pull from that corner this, and I'll just keep pressing equal. Sorry, plus equals over and over until I get to the correct amount of rises I need, which is 18. So anyways, I'm gonna do that now. All right, so we've got our rise is 7 9/16. So I'm gonna put that stair gauge on this side. This square is a little confusing because it's got a pivoting heel. So there's two numbers, but I'm following the bigger numbers because I'm on the extended side. So I'm gonna set this to 7 9/16. Perfect. This side gets set to 10. That's just a typical residential stair tread. If you're doing commercial, it's usually 11. I'm gonna first lay out my first riser, or just really my first diagonal, I guess. The riser and a tread. I'll come back to where this lines up. Mark another one. So now I've got that diagonal point I was talking about. So I can give myself a notch to pull from there. I'll take those numbers again. That's my rise, 10-inch run. So diagonal of 12 9/16. So now I'm just gonna work down and keep adding that. So there's my first 12 9/16 plus equals, there's 25 1/16. 37 5/8. I usually just mark this down the entirety of my stock material so I know I have enough marks. It's always annoying to have to redo the calculations and everything just to redo it. Last but not least, 200 3/4. So now that we have that marked, we know we have 18 rises. So the way we're gonna install our stairs, the landing itself, which would be right here, is a riser. So think of this as the top of our staircase. So that's 1 riser, 2 risers, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, please tell me we have enough. 15, 16, 17, and that technically would be 18. So we're gonna be really, really tight because that would be our vertical right there. So I think we'll be able to make that work, barely. So now the next thing I would need to do, I'm gonna steal this red ladder. Some of you guys might know already, I like to notch my stairs to strap up the back side of this beam rather than the face. So whoever does the flooring doesn't have to notch around it or deal with that. So I can mark my rise, and then I can just take that height here what's left of it is about 2 5/16, and then I can translate that to my stringer. So if this is where it meets that, that means that 2 5/16, just about, down from there, is where that will hit the bottom corner, and then it will square across 3 inches, and then it will square again this way. And that's where our strap will go up the backside of that double beam. Hopefully that makes some amount of sense. So now with all that marked out, we can actually mark all of our treads and risers. So basically what we're doing is I'm gonna line up centered between my diagonal points. Keep repeating that. I basically wanna split those 2 crow's feet, so I'm centered on that, and that's just gonna give me the most consistent rise and run for this whole set of stairs. So here we are coming down to our last riser here. So this is kind of what I was saying. Oh, I left my normal square over here. This one is going to be pretty tricky, but we should be able to just barely make it between a few different factors. You can see we're a little short off this corner. That's not too big of a deal, and I'll show you why. So first off, we have our full rise, which is 7 9/16, just about the width of that. But then -3/4 is going to be 6 3/4 heavy. So I'll mark that in a couple spots. So I'm lowering the width of the plywood I'm gonna put on this, but then also we're sitting on a finished slab. I'm just gonna take out about 5/16 to account for the flooring they choose. So you can see that gets our corner even a little bit smaller now. But last but not least, we're gonna be sitting on a notched plate. So I'm gonna come over 3.5, and then I'm gonna come down 1.5 inches right here. So I'm gonna mark those. There's that, and there's that notch as well. And look at that. At the end of the day, we are missing about 3/8 of our corner there, and I'll take that. By the way, if I knew it was gonna be this close, I would have ordered these a foot longer. But I'm able to make it work by doing that, so that's good. All right, so now we're gonna actually cut these. We've got these all stacked up on top of each other, which makes it easy. But I've got the Bigfoot saw. This is a 10 1/4 skill saw. What's nice about this is I should be able to cut through 2 of these and mark the 3rd, even though it's LVL stringers. So that's great because I'll be able to basically in 2 passes cut 4 stringers, which is awesome. And that's why it's worth carrying around a behemoth of a saw, so you can cut down on a lot of stuff like that. It also helps that it's corded, because this exact situation would kill so many batteries, and it has killed so many batteries for me in the past. So in order to double check these stringers, because this is a lot of LVL and it could become a really expensive mistake, is I'm just gonna cut the bottom and I'm gonna cut the top, and we're gonna test fit it on the landing and just make sure everything looks right before I go and cut everything, because if I do mess it up somehow, then it's way more expensive to have to replace all these. If I only cut the bottom and the top, I could probably salvage it and still relay this out and cut it right. So I'm gonna slide it so I'm only cutting the top one, and then we'll cut it and just double check how it fits. LVL is so strong. That's literally just the absolute minimum that I can cut and still check this. Troy needed to help me actually set this to test it, so you didn't get to see it. But the only thing we did have to change, everything looked great, but on this side, I basically need to change this notch to be up like that. Because I forgot to account that for the height difference, This is now the correct rise from the top of the plywood, and I want it to be from the bottom of the plywood because this is going to get a tread on top of it. So this one piece will just get a little 3/4 shim there, which is no problem, but all the next pieces will be cut perfect. So we've got this stacked back on there, and now we're ready to cut them for reals. So I'm going to start that. And then I'll tip these ones out of the way so that I can cut the last two, and then I can put them all together and sawzall them all at once. So because the cuts don't go quite all the way, I'm just gonna do another pass with the pencil and just finish these lines through so I'm not eyeballing quite as much. If I was using regular 2x, then this third stringer marks pretty easy, and you probably could get away with just following it, but I've got the square set up still. It's just as easy to mark it real quick, make it all right. I'm getting ready to set these stairs. So there's two things to note that's important for this. This wall's getting furred out 1.5 inches, and this beam is getting furred out. So it might look like I have all this space, but really I'm going to this wall. So I'm gonna set in, I believe I accounted for 1 inch from each spot. But basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mark my finished width, 1.5 inches there. From here I've got 53 1/4. So half of that is 26 5/8. It's my center. So then my width of my stairs is 51.5. It's gonna be 25 3/4 from there. Yep, that's perfect. So that gives me about 1 inch from the wall, which is just what you want so they can slip their drywall past there with no issues. All right, so that's my outside one. So now because my straps go up the outside, I can set my stringers first, toenail them in, just get them roughly set, and then I can put my straps on after. So I just got this gun. It's a Max. It's basically the same as the other ones, but it's a 75 instead of a 90. We usually only use 3-inch nails, so you can't run 3.5s in this, but you can run 3, so it's a little bit more compact, but this is cool too. Check this out. This button here blows air out of this. So you can use that to blow off the roof while you're sheeting, and like I said, it's a little more compact than the other guns. But it's basically the same driving mechanism and everything, so it's just as strong. All right, go ahead and get right on the bottom of the stringer and just brace your foot against it. Push it towards me. And okay, go for it. Nice and tight. I'll adjust it a little when I'm up there, but as long as you keep pressure, it won't move. Push real tight. Okay, I'm gonna nail it. All right, last but not least. All right, hold that. All right, that should stay. And then we can get those straps on the back side of this. You can see here, we've got our stringer notched perfectly to the back side of that beam. Troy's throwing up these straps. That'll lock these in real good. Tie us in nicely to the structure. And then we can get our kicker board down at the bottom of the stairs as well. But I forgot to sawzall these out. So once we get the straps in, I'll lift those up, sawzall that, and then we can put in our kicker, glue it, pin it to the ground. And then we'll get these. Guys got all the treads and risers cut yesterday. So I've got layout on 2 risers, kind of split this thing up because it's a really long set of stringers. So we're just gonna set these to keep everything nice and in line, and then we'll run through, we'll do all the risers, and then we'll come back and do all the treads. Same thing on the other end. Just bring it up nice and flush to the top of that. Beautiful. Now we can just glue all the way up. I like to put the risers on, like I'll set them down on there, because then you can kind of like walk on those to climb up and glue it. Yeah, we'll just start the same thing on the treads. And then I do a line of glue on the top of the riser too, like the piece of plywood that we just put in. That just really helps lock it all together. There we go. Stairs are in. Troy got them all glued up nice. Those are in, all nice and solid. Got our straps in on the back. Super clean finish, super strong. And Zach and Tim are getting the eyebrow roof sheeted up. We are officially wrapping up here for the day. I'm gonna go pick up some hold downs. Our steel never showed up for the breezeway, so I guess they need to get like a special permit to deliver that. But we got our stairs done today. We got the furring out of the beams done. You can see there. We added on some extra 2x6s inside our stringers to stiffen those up. It's like an 18-foot span, so they got bouncy in the middle, even with LVL. And the last thing I did, I put up this string line over here. See if you can see that. That is the roof line for the breezeway. So I got that strung up, so once our steel delivers, I can get our measurements for what to cut that to, and then we'll be ready to keep rocking and rolling on this. But until we do get that steel, that's about all we can do. So I'm gonna pick up a couple hold downs the engineer wanted to add on this corner and on that corner, and then that's all we can do. Well, that finishes up this day. We're just gonna go pick up those hold downs we need, and we'll be back once the steel shows up. Yeah, this is what, part 5 or something? I don't know, part 5, part 6, something like that. Oh yeah!